Hello everyone, today I am talking about something that I am sure is going to get a lot of people hot and bothered, especially the bootlickers out there. I'm sure they're going to find a way to suck the boot polish out of this one. But let's start talking about how two LA deputies are actually suing Polymer 80 because the firearm used in a crime was sold either by Polymer 80 or someone who sells Polymer 80 products, and then someone used that firearm after illegally manufacturing it in the state of California to create a ghost gun to attack them with it. This is a pretty crazy situation. We've talked a lot lately about stuff regarding the whole PLCAA and various other aspects of when can you sue someone because they used one of your products, and we don't sue car manufacturers because someone drunk drove their Toyota Prius. But today we're talking again about what's going on with people suing firearms manufacturers, which Polymer 80, I guess, is technically a firearms manufacturer because they do, I believe, make some non 80%ers and make full built firearms. But we'll get into that in a second. Real quick, before we get going, I do want to say thank you to today's sponsor. It is USCCA. If you're looking for a company to be there before or after to help you in the event that you ever have to use your firearm for self-defense, USCCA is the personal choice that I've made for the people I want alongside me. There's a lot of reasons to choose a lot of other different companies out there, but for me, I had specific reasons why I wanted to choose USCCA. One of them being is that they don't automatically remove any chance of being defended in the situation that you might have had any sort of prior relations or interactions with that person who you had to defend yourself against. And for me, that made it really easy for me to choose USCCA. It's not a knock on other companies. It's just for me, I value certain things. Look into it for yourself. But for me, I thought USCCA was a great choice, and I'm very happy to have their support helping me on this channel. And I hope I don't ever need to use them for their main purpose for existing. Thank you. So I'm going to be scrolling through here. This is the actual link to the lawsuit. I initially saw this on this website on 3D Printing Industry, but then I was able to find the link to the actual lawsuit itself. A lot of people sent me this, and this is pretty interesting because this is the two police officers who were assaulted being the plaintiffs in a case that is being bankrolled and supported by Everytown Law. So yes, in this situation, we have the police working with Everytown for gun safety to sue Polymer 80. Tell me again how all the police officers you know are pro-gun. So this introduction to this, it breaks down the case a little bit, talking about how they were ambushed and how they were shot. But then we're going to skip to kind of the parts where it really starts talking about Polymer 80. At all relevant times, Polymer 80 and the does through 50, it's basically saying the 50 defendants as well, manufactured, advertised, and sold firearms kits that included some or all of the components necessary to quickly and easily build complete and fully functional frames and weapons, including Glock-style semi-automatic handguns like the ones used to ambush the plaintiffs. These do-it-yourself firearm kits are commonly known as ghost guns because they lack serial numbers and are therefore extremely difficult, if not impossible, for law enforcement to trace when recovered in connection with criminal investigations. Again, we're going to talk about this again. Just because a firearm has a serial number does not mean it is traceable. It's not like a GPS with thumbprint activators and cameras has been pointed at that gun 24/7 the second it was manufactured. Any gun that's owned by someone without a background check that was either stolen, had the serial number filed off, was made by a private individual, or was lent unlawfully, all of those would cause a trace to not be able to successfully determine who was in possession of this gun. It's not like most murderers just happen to toss the murder weapon with a note saying, "Hey, I did it." So it's not really as effective as they make it out to be. And again, it's also just reacting to the crime that already happened, not necessarily stopping the crime in the first place. Because the central purpose of ghost guns is that they are untraceable, it is difficult and often impossible to determine who manufactured, sold, purchased, or transferred a particular ghost gun. Nevertheless, the firearm used in the attack of the deputies has been identified as a Polymer 80 handgun, model PF940C. Upon information and belief, the firearm had no serial number and no bore identifying characteristics save for a P80 logo stamped on the gun. Upon information and belief, the serialized Polymer 80 firearm used in the ambush attack of the sheriff's deputies was originally purchased as a kit in California from either Polymer 80 or one of Polymer 80's third-party distributors who sold it without performing a background check. We need to talk about this paragraph here. This is the big meat and potatoes one that I really wanted to talk about. So, they don't know who sold it to them. So they are suing Polymer 80, even though they don't know if Polymer 80 directly sold it to them. They don't know if it was sold through an actual vendor because it could have been sold third party. Someone might have bought it from a gun store that might have been selling them, or bought it online, and then that person might have sold it to this person. That first person could have actually manufactured it and then given it to the person who shot the deputies, but they don't know that specifically, or they're not claiming to know that here. So they're still suing Polymer 80, even though it doesn't matter who made it originally. Because if this was a Glock or if this was any other normal firearm, they wouldn't really have room to stand on. But apparently, because they don't even know who made it, they can sue Polymer 80. Defendants sold Polymer 80 ghost gun kits without serial numbers and without taking reasonable steps to ensure that purchasers are legally allowed to purchase or possess firearms, despite knowing that their deadly products are especially attractive to criminals who would likely and foreseeably end up in the hands of dangerous persons prohibited from legally owning firearms under federal and state law. So they're acknowledging that it's dangerous persons that have already gone through the legal system, but apparently we should let those dangerous people, those dangerous persons, out of jail. So is it the fault of the people that are letting out these criminals, or the prison system being just a bunch of shit? What is the actual problem here? Why are we allowing the government to regulate what free people, because this person that did it was allegedly a free person, so why did they let them out if they knew that they were going to be dangerous, if they were making terroristic threats? It's very interesting to me. Furthermore, defendants did not take reasonable steps to ensure that law enforcement could trace their assembled firearms if they were used in crimes. In fact, defendants purposely sold their firearms without markings to make it difficult for law enforcement to trace the firearms. Again, anybody that's going to be doing any sort of crime with any gun, regardless if they manufactured it themselves or not, they're most likely going to be destroying the serial number. And yes, I am aware that the technology to analyze a destroyed or altered serial number is pretty dang good. But these firearms that they are saying had no way to possibly mark, well, a lawful or a good citizen could choose to put their own serial number on that firearm. However, bad people don't follow the law, and it's not against the law for Polymer 80 to do what they were doing. And they're saying that it's that their responsibility, even when they have no legal responsibility to do so. Especially when, in the state of California, they made the sale of these illegal as of 2022. So currently, the state of California acknowledges that the sale of these kits is currently legal. But I think in July 1st of 2022, they will actually be illegal to sell. And now, if it was actually that dangerous, why would they move the date up from 2025 to 2022 just last year? Wouldn't they want to move it even sooner? It's almost like they don't actually care, and that this shouldn't actually be a good grounds for them to stand on. It then goes on to talk about how the ATF was going after the build, buy, shoot kits, which is interesting because it hasn't actually resulted in any real criminal charges as far as I'm aware of. And these build, buy, shoot kits, again, statutorily don't actually have the necessary completion of a receiver or a firearm to actually make it a firearm. It's just they're selling the 80% receiver and then they're selling everything else. But you could buy those things in two separate transactions and the ATF wouldn't care. You could buy that, check it out, pay $9 shipping, they send it to you. Then, in a separate transaction, you could buy literally everything else you need and they can send that right to your door. But apparently, buying it all together and having it ship in $1, that's where the ATF really had a problem with it, even though the law doesn't actually back up what they're saying. And again, all gun laws are an infringement, so none of this should really matter anyway. I really just thought that this was something worth talking about. We're seeing again how law enforcement are choosing to work with gun grabbers, and specifically we have Everytown for Gun Safety supporting a lawsuit where we have now cops as the people that are actually going after the gun industry. So again, Tell me how great it is that you know a cop, or you might be a cop that is pro-gun or pro-2A. When in reality, we see it time and time again where cops are working actively with the gun grabbers to get exemptions to these laws that they want to enforce on the people. And, I might hear people say, oh, I wouldn't ever enforce a gun law on that person. That's fine. That's fine for you as an individual. Congratulations. Here's a cookie for not being an absolute piece of shit. Congratulations. Here you go. I understand and recognize the need for policing in society. I'm not one of those defund the police idiots. I understand that sometimes bad people need someone to go after them, and that there are people that should go do that. However, we see that the police unions, the police as a whole, are typically alongside the government and working hand in hand with them to get exemptions from the laws to then enforce those laws on common people. I mean, we just saw it the other day with LAPD selecting an unsafe firearm as their duty weapon for their 10,000 police officers. And yet it's unsafe for you and I to buy that gun. So I think that this is going to be another bad look for police as a whole. I think the police that are pro-law enforcement or pro-2A aren't going to like this. I think the people that are actually pro-2A aren't going to like cops even more because of this. Because again, it's cool. You might live in Idaho where there's like 2 sheriffs for the entire town you live in. And yeah, they're cool. They probably let you shoot some of their illegal machine guns. That's great. Most people don't live there. Most people live in states, in cities, in towns where the police will enforce gun control. In the state of California, it's like every damn day we see some big law enforcement agency posting a photo of someone who got pulled over for some menial traffic stop, and then they happen to have a gun in the back. Guy didn't know that it was illegal, might not have been very aware of the laws, might not have cared about the laws, was just playing it risky, playing the dangerous freedom route. And then their life is destroyed because a cop decided to enforce that gun control when that was the only thing that they were doing wrong that day. Alan Sun, he's a perfect example of it. Fang Yang, perfect example of it. Many people out there are getting their lives destroyed because cops are choosing to enforce gun control. And cops as a whole are actively enforcing gun control. And that's the state that we live in right now. Nationwide, that's how it is. Let me know what you guys think down below. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.